Um, is there a motion to approve this agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Would I have to do that? I don't have it in front of me, but
Well, the agenda?
I do have it in. It's the old one. No, okay, yeah, I can move to approve the agenda. I'm sorry. I was
You were
thinking
thinking
of
about the minutes,
minutes.
but we're
I
not doing it. And
apologize.
even more confusingly, we don't have minutes on this agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
But I have them all done. I just want you to
I
know
saw them.
We're
That
gonna
was
batch them up next month.
and
the
hopefully we'll
quarterly
have to switch.
minutes will be reviewed. Okay, so motion to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
I
Motion carries. We have an agenda.
I
Item
didn't have any public comments.
Item 3 is public comment. And Kent, you have read this and you are the public, but I will read this again. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session to ensure that each individual presentation is heard. The commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. Public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. Would the public like to comment at this time? Kent?
We're being recorded? Yes.
Yeah, I believe we are. Yes.
Thank you. Glad we're being recorded.
And you have a mic here.
Start with, it'd be nice if we had more than one copy of the agenda out there, since I don't have a copy of the agenda to make comments on.
Here you go. You can have mine because I have.
We're going to be talking quite a bit about Blue Lake and its potential development as far as economic development goes, and we have a systemic problem in Blue Lake. The Rancheria, which should be one of our biggest partners, is not going to work with us as long as we have our current city manager. There's many of us, and you can go out to the Rancheria and talk to the people as I have. Feel free to do so. People such as myself and working on potential building and project will not be working with the city as long as Amanda Mager is the city manager. And the reason being is because her technique of dealing with the public, instead of working with us, she has a tendency to bully and to try and force people to sell their property for less. She uses the tools of the city, such as code enforcement and things of that nature. You're going to have people like Aaron McClure, and Aaron McClure is not going to really want to do a deal with the city of Blue Lake because of that situation. And as long as that's there, you're going to find you have a major handicap. Now, I'm not just saying this from my own experience, but I do exit strategies on business. Most business people like to talk to me. Business people who like to come here, such as the store that we lost down. It was Ambience. Was that the name of the one down in the? What was their name down?
Is there a time? Sorry, Kent.
I've got just another probably 30 seconds. So anyway, that those particular people exit strategies, that was the reason they left. They could not get along with your city manager, and I have other people talk to me, and I have to be quite direct with them. I don't feel that the city manager is friendly to potential business in Blue Lake, and I think that's a big detriment to the city. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on a non-agendized item. I will take the call.
Okay, Cindy and I can share. Yep, there you go.
I've got my.
I have a question. You said you were going to do some business, but you are not going to now. What business? Were you going to do?
I did
Construction?
not say I'm not going to do a business now. I think you're
Well,
misquoting me.
you said there's all this stuff that you wanted to do, but you don't want to do it now. Something like that.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
That wasn't my statement.
Or was that other people have things that they want to do and they won't
What?
do it?
Maybe. I'll let it go.
I did a miss public comment.
Oh, you did not.
Thanks, guys.
Julie?
Yeah,
Yes.
Julie. Darcy, Mandy. So I would just like to start by saying thank you, Commission. I think it'd be fun to do some entrepreneur work within your commission to kind of reach out to our community and do some surveys. Maybe Mandy can. I know we're not supposed to rebuttal during public comment, but maybe something she could discuss with you guys later for our sales income revenue being majority online. And I think it'd be cool to put a survey out to our public, kind of figuring out what they are buying online in a way that, like, is there bubbles where we're kind of, there's always like this group that's a necessity within our community. And maybe as we're having people come in and look at businesses or reaching out to people for businesses, we could kind of use a little bit of community input, what they are already having in our community to order, and bring it back to something that would be productive, long lasting, in our community as far as like economic development. Some other thoughts I have for the commission is first thanking Justin for being here. He's a prized asset for a lot of community members like myself that just can't make all the meetings. It's been a great archive. I think it's an asset to the city in a way that when Mandy gets public records requests, she could just refer people back like, hey, go back and watch that meeting. As we get new commissioners, a way to be like, hey, you guys, we've been talking about this stuff for a while now. Go back and review this archive. And I might get a call from my kid too. I didn't turn my phone off either. I'm so sorry. So I just think that if Justin, I know you had offered leaving some equipment and stuff like that, that if this commission still would be willing to help facilitate the recordings, and then making it a priority that we have those available just still on Blue Lake News is fine. Access Humboldt's always great,
Access Humboldt would be a
but that's usually primary council and planning, most jurisdictions. So it's an extra bonus for us to have these recordings if we could get them. And I won't take any more time. I see you guys.
I have a question. When you talk about a survey of the needs, do you mean of like dry goods or like
Well, 80%
fishing
of our
tackle or
sales tax is coming from online sales.
ah.
So to bring that back,
you mean in the world or in our town?
perhaps you guys can internally talk about. That's just my thought and suggestion.
Because like Barb was gonna do a little online store. Barb Russell, when she had the building, which she owns, she was trying to get people to join a co-op and order things that in bulk. Do you mean that kind of thing?
If we really looked at what the public really needs and wants, maybe we would just have a little bit more goal area is all.
Just to see if there's something in the shrinkage that's in that
Just
online
see-
bucket
like
that could
maybe
be
there's a
brought
building
back in.
available to accommodate that
Just
stuff
what's the
that they
needs?
want.
What are our needs? What are people willing in town to?
Like for example, what would you need?
Any kind of like necessities outside of like merchies that is cost effective, like not to say any chain stores, but just the necessities of everyday home stuff, just those average day things.
Like dry goods, toothpaste, toilet paper, newspapers.
Could be another topic.
Yeah, I think this is something maybe to discuss at a future
Just-
meeting.
For us to go investigate, I just
Well,
wanted
it's
more
just-
details. Okay.
True.
All right.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll make.
Maybe I'll make a public comment. So I think what she may be talking about in your request of the public is what are you ordering online
That you would rather
that you would like to purchase here in town that you order online because you don't have a chance to here in town.
Gotcha.
I think that's where she was getting at.
Thank you. That clarifies it. Horse supplements.
Feed stores, hay. That's amazing. Is he gonna hay their own? There's lots of cool ideas. We're getting workshop. What are you doing?
You could do a tack store down at Christie's Ranch.
Totally cool.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, a City of Blue Lake Community Vision update discussion.
Yeah, so oh, here, just
So, at one of the last recent council meetings, we talked about updating the City of Blue Lakes Community Visioning and Strategic Plan that was worked on in 1997. There were some additional updates through over the years, but I think it's a really good foundation, and it's something that we've been working for a number of years to look at, the economic kind of resurgence and renaissance at Blue Lake. And the council agreed that it was a document that has value still. And they've tasked myself and with the help of the commissions to start to look at that vision, look at that strategic plan, update it, and start thinking about items that we could add to the plan. I did take a first cut at updating it with their specific action plans to kind of bring it current, where to look at projects that have been completed, projects that are in the works, projects that may no longer have value, but also to allow the commissions to have an opportunity to talk about and think about where we are today in relationship to this, and thinking about strategic opportunities that we'd like to include in an update to this plan. So, as we've been moving forward with recreation and arts and culture and different aspects of our economy, thinking about including that into a new strategic plan that could then be taken out to the community and to the council, so that the city could have a new plan that's updated and reflective of where we are today. So I can pass. Did you guys have yours?
I
This one
grabbed
for you.
one.
Box.
Yep.
I have one.
Um, One thing that occurs to me for making businesses viable in Blue Lake
Mhm.
is it's gotten harder and harder to get commercial property insurance,
Oh,
Oh,
and the they're looking at all sorts of things and reasons not to renew, or it's going to
a
get more and
barrier.
more difficult until there's
Hmm.
a legislative fix, which we are crossing our fingers for at this point. But they're going to be looking at something called a fire safe community,
Hmm.
and I don't know how that would fit into our visioning and strategy, but over the next 20 to 50 years, wildfire is almost certain to be an ongoing concern for communities here on the wildland urban interface like we are.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're already seeing that with people's homeowners insurance being canceled and policies not being picked back up, or policies coming in at really astronomical rates. So there's already that effect is resonating throughout all the communities, and Blue Lake's no different. We are obviously in the WUI. We do participate with the fire safe councils, and we do have a community fire action plan. But fire is different these days. It's something in the past we really weren't as concerned about. We've always considered ourselves a little bit in the fog belt, and we didn't really think of ourselves as being susceptible to wildfire, and that whole um, situation and thought process has changed now. So it is something that we are, taking very seriously. We are surrounded by a lot of timberlands, and that's something that the timber companies are definitely integrating into their management plans and principles, is thinking about fire. It's something we think about every day as a volunteer firefighter. We're responding to way more vegetation and wildland fires than we ever have. So it's having impacts across the board. It is definitely depleting resources, but it also presents opportunities as well.
There are jobs
So
for clearing out this
mhm,
vegetation.
absolutely. And you can look at different building code measures. You can look at defensible space.
But a lot of
There's
that is like, okay, well, I've got a 3 to 5 foot setback for a fence now, but
mhm.
I'm like up on the property line. How is that even what it affects people's decisions over time, and it's starting to
Doesn't it affects planning decisions
and
as well?
housing
Hmm.
costs for renters and owners
Hmm.
are going
Yeah,
up.
I think it's definitely something, like I said, that we're already seeing those. So, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with, and as communities, we have to do what we can to make ourselves as fire safe and aware as possible. And there's a lot of work being put into it. I mean, Cal Poly alone has a new fire science program that's really interesting and is just looking at fire in a whole different way. So
So that's an opportunity.
I think it's an opportunity as well. It's definitely something that we have to be concerned about and take seriously, but there's also a lot of opportunities that come with it as well. So,
well, I think the thing that I'm noticing is even if it hasn't changed and it's a lot more challenging, fires are getting
mhm.
more, the insurance companies are looking for any excuse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I have a friend who lives in outside of Blue Lake, and she had her house insurance through AAA. They just canceled her.
Hmm.
They said they did a flyover,
Yep.
and they're letting her go because of too much debris. The debris was wood that they were making for firewood
Hmm.
and they had a tarp over it. So,
That's
you know,
crazy.
it's
Yeah. Lucky's insurance got canceled also. He was in Willow Creek and they wanted him to put up a fireproof deck, some plastic
Hmm.
deck, which I don't know why that would be better. It seems like it would melt and asphyxiate you with chemicals. So he just said, forget it.
Yeah. Well, and I
they
think you
went
have to
into a
look at
fair plan, which is not fair.
it's not fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they call it fair, you know it's not.
Right.
Like Red
And
Delicious.
that's just for the exterior. It does not include your items in the house. So you have to get another plan to cover your items or your
They have
personal
something to cover
items.
contents.
Yeah.
Oof.
I'm not happy.
Well, I think you have to look at fire differently. In the past, you might have lost a home or two. You're now losing whole communities.
Right.
And so that's a big impact when you have whole cities burning to the ground. And then you think about the insurance side of that. So,
But they can't
you know,
pass on the reinsurance costs. So either way, it's going to go up.
absolutely.
The reinsurance costs not being able to pass on to the consumer is why people are pulling out of California.
Mhm.
And until we have to pay that as either ratepayers or taxpayers,
It's frustrating.
it is
Yeah. And I think, communities across the nation are wrestling with disasters. I mean, when Dustin moves to Texas, he'll have to worry about tornadoes taking out communities. So, I mean, there's natural disasters playing out everywhere. We have wildfires and floods, and other places have, extreme heat. They have, tornadoes and hurricanes and stuff. So, natural disasters aren't going away.
Mild here, actually.
Yeah. And
other
I
than
think
the
Blue Lake's
flooding.
in a pretty good position. Like I said, it's we definitely have to be cognizant of our fire footprint, and there's a lot of things we can do. We do have a really good fire rating in our community. We have with our hydrants and our water system, we have good high flow hydrants, and um, so we're not necessarily as susceptible. Uh,
No, the
but
water
it's something
pressure's
that we
great.
do definitely have to think about. So yeah, so back to some of
Other vision.
the
Sorry.
no, I mean it's all important and it all does play into cost.
Housing
And
stock, I mean, those are the buildings are even harder to insure
yeah,
as time goes on
yeah,
without like they want upgrades. When
right.
did you replace your heating system? How old is your roof?
Right. So if you look on page 2 of this plan, the first plan is more recreation and entertainment focused on, and they kind of focus mostly on access for trails and things. Um, so I don't think that's as much of a focus. I think that could be more of a parks and recreation type of item. But when you start going to the second page, talking about grocery, hardware stores, sporting centers, gardening, espresso, general store type items, those are all still items that are still on the table for Blue Lake, and there's still a need and there's still a great opportunity. Some of those things, we are working towards, and we do have some current interest in new development and new buildings and new investment. So that's really exciting. So I went through on page 2 and kind of updated where we are, what our current status is. I made an updated action recommendation and then a recommendation for next steps. But these are just my recommendations, and so I wanted to bring that back to the commission and review that and see if you had additional input or thoughts or ideas or recommendations or any other type of input. um, you guys have been kind of at the forefront of economic development from the ground up, from what we're working on. So you guys definitely are the group with probably the most knowledge right now about where we started from a number of years ago and where we're going, and just kind of how we're trending. So
I think a recreation goods, some sort of recreation based business, like a bike shop or sporting goods
mhm.
store, in addition to a sporting yeah, something like that would be a good fit with
Yeah.
Plug Believe.
Is that anywhere else on here? I'm trying to remember.
I'm just looking at the top of
Yeah,
page
I
2,
am
but
too.
maybe
I don't see it anywhere else, but that makes a lot of sense because especially with the development with recreation.
somewhere to
bike
rent
shops.
bikes. And also, I saw people birding out on the Levee Trail yesterday.
Birding
Birding
is
is
huge.
is
It's huge.
this is a really sweet spot for birding.
Yeah.
and those people have interesting toys and money to spend.
Do.
Do tell.
Well, the spotting scopes are expensive. Anyway, so
So if you look on the very last page, there's kind of a blank um, community action planning form. And maybe this is where we could kind of synthesize some core ideas and recommendations. You know, we don't want to branch out too much just because we are limited a little bit, and maybe focus on kind of where we're at currently and what seems to be moving forward, and maybe what some support activities might be in relation to some of the projects that we've been working on and that are um, gaining interest. I think the recreation store, that's something that we have had a lot of interest in, and we currently have interest in. And so I think that's a great project to have as kind of a priority, and kind of that combination. They've always talked about kind of the recreation mercantile grocery store. So maybe you can go in and you can get a deli sandwich. You can maybe pick up some fun Blue Lake merchandise. Maybe there's
something like River Song,
fishing
but
stuff. There could be, chicken feed and dog food and, cheese and milk. And, but, you could also maybe there's a bike repair shop in there, or, different things. So having that kind of general store that meets the needs, kind of on a local but also visitor basis, I think is something that has been picking up a lot of interest. And then I don't know if you guys have any other projects that kind of rise up on your list of priorities or ideas or concepts.
well, we're about to, if these projects come to fruition, we'll have a lot more people in the community, and the community needs
Hmm.
may, be become
Yeah,
even greater needs, and there
right.
will probably be some new ones.
Yeah, I think with more, more development creates more opportunity
I
and
think
more
that
needs.
sort
So,
of clinic space is something that maybe like dental. We have as a dentist still over here, like dental hygienists, insurance, like the like service industries, or like counseling offices, or something that gets people out to a Blue Lake within a periodic time frame,
Veterinarian,
weekly,
yeah.
monthly.
I'm still working on it.
small animal.
Many animals. Yeah,
Well, a lot
there's
of these are kind of connected with this
Mhm.
vision update. The sports concept, bike park development. Um, a lot of it's got a big connection.
and there's the resiliency center they're supposed to get started breaking ground on over here at the casino in I guess it's supposed to be this year. I had heard they were breaking ground for the one or two buildings.
What's
I
that
don't know if
mean?
that's still going on. There was some funding for a it'll be I think they're going to have a small cafe and then classrooms, and they'll have job training for different stuff.
Is that just for tribe members only?
I do not know as much about this project as I would like, but I think it's going to be done in multi-year phases because construction costs vary.
Okay.
And I don't know what opportunities that would create for Blue Lake with that going on there, but it might end up being. I mean, I don't know what the big vision for that is, but so there's
Well, here's your community needs survey.
right.
So it's been thought about.
So the mercantile, the question is, where does it go? Does that get incorporated into the Taylor Way project?
I think probably at this point, I think what we're seeing is that we don't have any buildings right now that are available necessarily for retail commercial. And so I think the best energy is spent focusing on new development. Um, so we've been trying to focus a bit more on, the downtown over the years, and we have been able to help support the development of the coffee shop and Blue Heron. Um, the Obviously the Logger has done really well and has done a lot of remodeling to really bring that building up to a nice standard. Chimeo Spa looks really nice. There's there's not there's not a lot of right now additional property owners that are interested in moving forward with projects. So um, we have the new town square going in. So there's a lot that's gone into the downtown. But at some point, the city's hands are pretty tied with private property owners, what if they, whether they want to invest in their properties or not and turn those over to retail commercial. But there's a lot of opportunity and investment and development opportunity in the Powers Creek district
What about
as well.
eating places? I mean, a food truck pad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's happening on the park, town square.
Yeah, there
right?
will be a space for food trucks, and there's electricity that's being installed just with that thought that in the future, being able to have different markets and different activities in the downtown could facilitate more food trucks.
And they'll need access to commercial kitchen space or commissary kitchen space for
They
those.
do. A lot of them already have connections to commissary space, but the city has also invested in a new commercial kitchen in Prash Hall.
Mhm.
We also invested in upgrading the serving booth in the back that has been facilitating Blue Lake Pizza. The city made the investment into the space that the doghouse is in. So we have been actively investing in
And
commercial
that's helping.
kitchens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, yeah, it gets expensive to rent your space for
And
for
there's
kitchen.
just not a lot available.
No.
It's
And
everyone's got a waiting list. So
and food trucks are popping up like mushrooms all over Humboldt.
yeah.
Seeing it.
Although it's interesting that some of the food trucks are actually going to bricks and mortar. You have the Pineapple
Mhm.
Express, and they're moving into the old Humboldt Soup Company.
Well, she's found that her truck at 25 years is no longer as reliable as
Oh.
she would like. So, oh, and the arts and culture. So the idea was gallery space. And year-long planning for gallery and retail space to be open in conjunction with other events.
Yeah, I have a question. Since you own the Emporium and you have quite a few windows, would you be interested at some point looking at Phantom Art Gallery, which is when you have vacant buildings, you actually put art, local artists display their work there, and it's a way to get people to recognize the building and kind of go, "Hey, this is a cool building," in case at some point you do want to do something with it.
And that could generate sales tax. Um,
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about insurance before, and
oh,
so any business I have in there, right now, you can qualify a building like that as a residential use because it's got 3 apartments in it, and the other one is just ancillary storage. As soon as you start talking me doing that, any kind of use in there, you're probably looking at $1,200-$1,500 a month just for the insurance that's required for you to have anything in there. Totally inclined to do something like that. I stick my own little art things in there right now. The Emporium that's what we used to have in there. We had art all along the wall. Crafts people did all their things, and so we had that business in there, and that was when the liability insurance was 6,000 rather than probably you're looking at 18 or 20, and that doesn't pencil out. So
no. You'd
does
have
that
to
does
sell
that
a
answer your
really
question?
large
I'd love to
piece.
say I could do it, but
No,
it's
no,
just not viable.
you really gave me a reality check.
Okay.
Thank you.
You would have to have the liability insurance on to operate in there as any kind of operate any business in there. Have you tracked the? I mean, I'm just thinking about. I'm just brainstorming here, but the Ink People's Dream Maker projects. I mean those would still require you to have your separate insurance?
I'm not sure what my current insurance carrier would carry if they have a $1 million policy and they're willing to go ahead and put it on the whole building as far as insuring the thing in conjunction with that, then you without getting that building sprinkled, I would be changing the use of the building.
Okay.
And so then
okay.
that whole thing has to be brought up to code.
Yeah,
to change
not
the existing
this
use.
climate
Okay.
without, okay.
Another reality check.
Mm. But I like that we have the Arts and Culture Commission now, or Arts and Heritage. It seems like there's an opportunity there. We had been talking about a plein air art festival, I think in 2020 before things got weird.
Yeah, before COVID hit. Yeah, I think art uh events could be huge for Blue Lake.
No, we do the pastels event, the pastels in
Mhm.
the park.
Have we done that in the last year?
The pastels in the park.
Yeah.
We haven't, and I think Emily through Parks and Recreation is looking to do that when we have the town square done, to do kind of a fall pastels around the plaza, just a smaller one.
And we also have, in addition to the bird nerds, there are also the mountain bike and enduro people, and that is a growing audience.
It's huge. Yeah. It's definitely something that the city is looking at very closely and looking at shifting some of our strategies to be able to take advantage of that market. We've got a really good working relationship with RCMBA. They have, I want to say they have like over almost 800 members. They're a huge organization promoting mountain biking in the communities. We work closely with the Humboldt Composite Mountain Biking Team as well to promote more of the youth ridership. In fact, we have, I believe there's 3 events coming up. We have one starting in June that's a youth enduro grinder event coming up. So we're partnering with them on that so that they can camp down on Taylor Way.
Yeah, I know a vendor for tents if you are looking for something. Really
Okay.
nice ones for festivals.
Yeah, and then we just met with the chamber last night to talk about ways to connect business to those events. So what we're looking at proposing or asking the event organizers if we part of their registration packet we can have information about our local businesses. So the chamber is going to go and meet with local businesses to see if they'd like to put in a coupon or a promo or have a promo during that weekend because these events bring in hundreds of people and they stay here in Blue Lake and they will buy things and they usually the lager is slammed and the brewery is slammed. I know you've had some pretty good results from it. But we've also had businesses who didn't maybe know and didn't take advantage of that opportunity. And so we want to make sure we're making those connections and providing opportunities. So if Keiko at Honeycomb wants to put in, even $1 off coupon or just a, welcome mountain bikers, come get your coffee in the morning or, type thing so that we're starting to connect those businesses to those recreation opportunities.
Somebody could do pretty well with an ice cream cart.
Oh, I already got my.
Your sister has a cart she's been wanting to get up and going.
Yeah.
Just a cooler on a pony cart.
Yeah, Canyon's got a plan for one too. Okay. It's going to be his summer job, he said, selling ice cream around town. Yeah, I mean, there's just, I think that has some real unlimited potential. The interesting thing about that group as well is that many of those mountain bikers not only participate in those events, but they ride out here 2 to 4 times a week. And, some of those same people are those same people that are looking to invest in Blue Lake. And so that's a really nice connection. They understand the community, they understand the mountain biking community, and they're also there's a lot of them that are very professional business people as well and very successful. And so recognizing the investment potential of Blue Lake is something that is really exciting. And so we've been working very closely with all of our mountain biking friends to move that forward.
The big enduro happening.
It's September 12th.
It's what?
Is it some September?
Yeah, we have the junior grinder is coming up in the first part of June. And then there's a September, I believe there's going to possibly be 2 enduro rides because it's just been bringing in hundreds and hundreds of people each time. And
It's hard to get a spot.
you can't, within 30 minutes, it's sold
I
out.
know because my niece lives up in Portland
Hmm.
and her husband's a big mountain biker and he goes, Can you tell me when
I
to be
everyone
on the
waits for it to
phone
come
to,
out, and
to
yeah,
redial?
we get. I mean, you can go down on last year on Taylor Way. It literally looked like an RV park. I mean, there was probably $2 million worth of the Sprinter vans parked down there. I mean, they're people, and if you looked at the license plates, they were coming from British Columbia, Utah, Oregon, Washington, all over. It's a big event, and these mountain biking trails are becoming some of the most well-known mountain biking trails in the nation.
They're world class.
They are very much world-class trails. And it's a great partnership. It's a partnership with Green Diamond. It's kind of this new partnership and stewardship opportunity. And so, the group from RCMBA is helping us with the mountain bike or with our bike park. They've been a big facilitator and actually helped move that forward. So they're really investing in our community and investing in our economy. And I believe that they'll also be investing in business as well. So
Good stuff.
I can't really even think of anything that you didn't touch on that I would add other than those few little comments along the way.
Yeah, I do like the gardening idea there.
yeah, I
If
think, I mean, and we're not big enough to support necessarily all of these as separate individual types of businesses. But, if you had a nice mercantile shop with a little garden center, that's an opportunity as well. If you look at Willow Creek, it's got a population of about 1,500, and it's always supported little businesses and it's very tourism based. But there's definitely opportunity. We're not any different than, I would say, Ferndale is another good example. A small community off highway, off beaten path. Very, that has a specific draw and that supports small business. And Blue Lake's the same way. I mean, we get thousands of people coming through our community every year. It's just that there aren't things for them to purchase necessarily, but they're here. And so, finding ways to capitalize on what their needs are and facilitating their stay and has a really good, strong trickle down effect for the community as
I
well.
think a place to sell local art.
hmm
I mean,
So I do believe that the group that is in the Lindstrands building, I think that is their goal. They did do kind of an open house during the May block party, and they did talk about getting ready to open to the public, and that was one of the focuses that they had was an art gallery, some small retail, and then starting to do some classes, and then obviously facilitating their studio space.
and then there was the potential for some live work artist maker spaces over on Mondo Way.
And that's still part of that project. Yeah, the Danco project, the Bottawat Community Project still has, I believe there's 3 live work units, 3 or 4 that are being incorporated into that project.
Very
And then
cool.
there's some talk with some of the other business owners down there that want to continue to develop in the district that are also looking at some live work units as well. So they really like that concept.
Wow, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Are there any more public comments on the City of Blue Lake Community Vision update? Ken.
Your insurance problem is major. I did everything they asked me to do, and they canceled me anyway.
I'm sorry.
That's ongoing.
I'm sorry.
I have to self-insure me. Um, and it's kind of, like we have visioning here, and it doesn't even relate to what we just referred to as the Danco project. And of course, I feel that the opportunity zone was created specifically for live work. And 3 out of whatever that project is not sufficient. Those should all be designed so that they could be done on that kind of basis and rented on that kind of basis. That's what the opportunity zone was created for, and that's what it's actually going to be required to be. Before I mentioned that, when you have people who want to come to town and they're considering being here, you really don't want to have them have the perception that they're going to have a stick used on them rather than carrots when they want to be here. So I'm going to read to a little section on page, I think it is 3. Uh, the city may need to implement harsher regulations to prevent the downtown sector from deteriorating beyond investment feasibility. Consider revisions to the zoning regulation to preclude empty downtown commercial spaces. Direct staff and the building officials to move aggressively pursue building code violations. Well, this is exactly the opposite of what somebody who wants to come here. They want to hear the city's going to work with them, show whatever latitude they can, and so all you're presenting here is the stick. You have, my understanding is actually may even have a contract with the county to implement and use CBDG funding, which actually could be used to. My understanding is to redo some of the residential things down there, as long as they serve a certain income category. Somebody's willing to put a certain fix on that, there's money for that. None of these things are happening until those things change. I think you're going to find the attitude is, well, and unfortunately, I think the main person who was going to come out here was RMI. They were going to have everything that was on the list, but unfortunately, their sale of another piece of property fell apart on them. And I was sad to see that happen. I did historically when I talked to an old timer and he was in front of my building looking at all my pictures I have in there. He said, well, right for there was a bicycle shop once. And you could rent a bicycle for 25 cents is what it used to be back in the day. So we do have history of that having happened here. I'm not really overly optimistic. All of these businesses, it's economy of scale. Fieldbrook Market basically is not functional. That was, of course, the model that we would be looking for. And unless you have somebody who already has a very diversified stock, can buy large quantities and pass that price on, there's very little chance of someone competing here, especially keeping their inventory fresh on spoilable items. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
So I would respond to that by saying Mr. Sawatsky has one of the biggest retail commercial spaces in Blue Lake, and he has every opportunity to invest in his own property to bring it up to a standard that people would want to utilize it. That's not the city's responsibility, but our responsibility is to enforce codes, especially in a downtown retail commercial sector where the public is exposed to these facilities, and they need to be maintained in a safe manner that doesn't detract from the other businesses and properties in the downtown. So I would say that that really is a problem that the city is dealing with. We have a couple of properties that are in that same condition, and it is a detraction from the downtown and opportunities for investment. And it's something that the city doesn't have the capacity to deal with or invest in. But Mr. Sawatsky tells us over and over again that he's a millionaire and a developer and a business person. And so I would challenge him to invest in his own property to bring it up to a standard that would provide benefit to the downtown. It's not up to the city to do that.
Oh,
Sure,
okay.
go for it.
Unfortunately, it's horse before the cart. When someone doesn't have any faith in actually bringing things to fruition, be very foolish to go ahead and throw $500,000 or $600,000 into a project and then have it sit there. At that time, you're going to be needing to get way more per dollar price just to break even, and that's the problem you've seen in retail and brick and mortars throughout the whole nation, and that's not changing. So to be recommending that someone has to do this, it would be very poor. And my money, a lot of it's going to Mexico and is very well spent down there because the people seem to appreciate government's easy to work with, and they're not trying to use a stick on you all the time. In fact, they're trying to help you down there. So thank you for my opportunity to respond to that.
I did want to bring up something. Would it be helpful for you if we actually try to find uh, someone who would like to use your space and maybe
Of course.
do the connection with
That's
you?
all I've been requesting for the whole
Okay.
time. It didn't work one time because I think her name was Siva and she had an Ace store. She was told that I was willing to carry paper on the building and sell it to her for 2/3 of the value. And of course, none of that was true. So she was very disappointed to find out that I was not willing to do this. She spent a lot of time, came up to me and said, well, I was told this by Mandy. And that kills the deal right there, you know. And I was willing to try and work with her, but at that point, she was so disappointed in finding out that she'd been misinformed that deal would. More than happy to work with any legitimate person. You can leasehold improvements can be put into it for someone who's financially valid, but there's usually a way to do it. Of course, they're going to have to, you know, develop their own feasibility study. My understanding is there's some out there which aren't on the website. The public doesn't have access to. It'd be really nice to have any feasibility studies or any marketing studies made available on the website so that we could use that to market to people when we do want to show something. So I'm way more than happy to say all these people are looking for this place. I haven't had a single one of them contact me in the last, I think, well, ever since Sheriff Bowman came in there and that fell apart. So that was the last time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, I mean, that is something that
I think
we can explore. You know, we all know people.
Yeah, ideally, I mean, that if some you get the right group or business that wants to be in that space and have their costs fixed as far as their occupancy, then there's a return to everybody. And I don't know how that piece comes together, but we can have, try to put it out there. Maybe there must be somebody in Humboldt looking to grow their business or move it into a different spot.
Well, and with all the things that Blue Lake is doing now, with it's getting more exposure. It's not like Blue Lake, you know, where is it? It's more you're getting people coming out here and seeing that there's a lot of activity here. And it may seem like, you know, you're wasting time on having these events, but these events are the best marketing you can do for economic development.
oh, absolutely.
And I think we're starting to see a little bit of that too.
Hmm.
But I think we just kind of keep Kent's building in mind. And then, Kent, would you be one thing that I always thought was a good idea when a business is starting out, if they can work with the landlord on a graduated lease, you know, where you start off at a certain lease rate and then you increase it as the business becomes more successful. Is that is that something that works in your realm?
I'm autistic. There's nothing that's not possible. Anything could be brought through, and if it's financially viable, for both of us, I'm happy to work, happy to use creative things. Again, it's dependent upon the person. If attempting to work with the guy from RMI, I said, well, maybe you would like to come out here and try your business here in a smaller thing, since you don't have money for acquisition, and he didn't accept that. And of course, all these kind of creative financing things like that are potential. Again, it depends on the quality of person. In his case, I would have been bent over backwards, to make something work, to get foot in door with him and to have the building going. So those kind of options have always been out there, and sometimes have been touched and
So
explored
you're
by
almost
myself.
like a little incubator in some ways,
Well,
is what you're
even if you
talking
just
about.
somebody said all I can use is 20% of the building to start with, and they pay that thing, we're going to have a base cost of putting in sprinkler systems and some of that
Yeah.
stuff, no matter what, to bring up certain things. But then, able to expand your business as your business grows, or you get another partner to business in there. All those things, the flexibility is there. It just has to be implemented. Thank you for my opportunity to speak.
Well, maybe Mr. Sawatsky would be willing to take the EDC through his building, and then you could look at it and see the condition and see if you could help then try and find a tenant. Because I think that's
Well,
a big part of this whole
yeah, no
process.
sprinklers and code. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some
the
wickets to
insurance is
clear.
a big issue for everybody. Yeah. So we should probably be talking to the state of California.
So maybe you guys could take a tour.
Yeah, let's do a tour.
You guys ready for me?
Oh, yes, Julie.
I would advise this commission that during public comment to be cautious of rebuttaling. We have our mayor and our staff here. They know the procedures on that. It's great you gave permission for Kent to be able to come back and talk about that. On our general plan online, we have an economic development goals, Adeline, Andy, that was set forward on our general plan for 2009, 2014. This, in my opinion, should supersede any of this. This was a USDA grant. This was very outdated. I was a young little pup. But I just feel like this is a great draft that we could visualize some ideas and thoughts on. But to use this as our core with so many direct staff verbiage, I would be a little more inclined to leave this as a draft. And let's get back to our general plan. I did mention that at our prior last council meeting when this was brought up to council, same agenda item. Our general plan needs to be consistent with housing element, with economic development goals. So it's very important. Eureka, the supervisors, Arcata, They've all spent extensive time making sure that everything was compliant and consistent. We should do the same. The parking, I think, for economic development is something we should always focus on too. And I think it's great that you guys have put in the form. I think that could be kind of like I was saying, public comment, maybe a way we could generate a little bit more public input versus kind of revising. You know, here we are with Town Square, it's 26 years later. So we know things take time to evolve. For other facility or nonprofits coming in, what really helps us up in McKinleyville Arena is I have them be an additional insured. County appreciates that. City would appreciate that too. Private property owners would appreciate that. So perhaps those entities can just do that for them and help that. I think it's really important too that we get to or wait, I had another one note here. Doo. Maybe I'll just call it that. I think you guys got me again. Really dive into your general plan. That's what sculpts you. That's what sculpts all of us. This is a great draft, but in legalities, maybe we can use it for grants or whatever, but I don't know why we're pushing it so hard when we have other things that we need to be focused on.
Thank you. Are there any more? Elise?
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to share that I think it might be a nice idea if you guys had like an ad hoc committee or a subcommittee that was empowered to talk to potential business investors or businesses. You know, go to some of the existing businesses, ask them what's working, what's not working, this sort of thing. I know city staff is pretty busy, and maybe can't always, you know, give the kind of personal touches that you guys might be able to. Um, because I think there's been businesses in this town that have left for reasons that might have been solvable. I personally had some conversations with some people that closed up shop and left, and I know that there was a solution to the problem that they were leaving for. But you know, there were barriers to solving it too. But I think sometimes if you can have you know, if you can have some folks coming in from a different perspective and have the time to share, um, you know, we might be able to solve some problems. So I would just encourage you, whenever possible, to talk to business owners and see what they have going on. Um, and you know, I know that, you know, the retail tax dollars are something we're all looking for. Um, but I know too that it's really hard to make it retail alone, especially in Blue Lake, right? So there's some hybrid like the Blue Heron shop that's really a hybrid manufacturing, wholesaling with a little bit of retail, you know, and it looks nice and it's a beautiful space. Um, and she's successful because she doesn't have to rely on the retail aspect. Um, so with the energy, you know, that's going into development and attracting business, I think we need to think about a bigger box than just retail. Um, because I don't know. I mean, it seems to me, in all years of failed businesses one after another, that that retail alone is not the best business model for Blue Lake. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Keeping an eye on the clock. We're an hour in. Is there? I think that's the end of the City of Blue Lake vision update. And moving on to the Blue Lake branding and signage project, item 5.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a quick update. As you guys know, we're working with Visual Concepts to help us with some signage and some branding. Noah has sent over some preliminary mock-ups for review. I didn't have those in time for the packet. They're still pretty rough, but he's starting to kind of pull together some concepts relating to the branding for Blue Lake in relationship to signage, merchandise, wayfinding, and just looking for some of those connecting points. So really focusing on Sunshine, the river, a connectivity to the historical uh, nature of the town. So thinking about the train tracks to trail type concept. Um, and so those are starting. So he's just now really starting to dive into that. So I'm hoping by the next meeting we should be much further and have some additional information for you guys to look at and give some feedback and provide some direction to staff as well.
Will that include a new sign at the roundabout?
Yeah, so that was kind of the impetus for all of this. And of course, we've been talking about branding for quite a while, but we just hadn't really been ready to take that next step. But looking at that kind of gateway into Blue Lake, we've been talking with the chamber as well to see how we can um, integrate with the existing sign that the chamber maintains and maybe give that a bit of an uplift and connectivity so that we're not having kind of two separate signs. But that sign, is in need of some maintenance and some updating and stuff too. So it's a good time for us to be working in coordination to kind of bring that together cohesively. So that's something that we're looking at as well.
Thank you. Are there any public comments about the branding and signage project?
I appreciate the fact that it will be available at the next meeting. Sounds like it's actually in hand. It just didn't make it to the pack. Public would really like to have those things, which is available right now. It sounds like put on their website. I know you folks probably get your packet or your information or limited packet on a Sunday at 6 p.m. or whatever the deadline is, 4:30 or whatever they come out with the packets on the things. And just for us to be able to see these things now, I see no reason why that can't be put on the website. So we all can look at that and then we all will be more informed and can have a more informed decision when our conversation when we come before you at the next meeting, take the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I concur with Kent said.
Seconded. Noted. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, the City of Blue Lake project updates and discussion, items A through G.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you guys an update on the town square. As you guys can obviously see, we're in full-blown construction, so that's really exciting. Sequoia Construction is our contractor. Right now, they're putting in all the underground utilities, water, wastewater, electrical, and irrigation lines. Um, the project will include a splash pad for the kids, a shade trellis structure, um, a bathroom, benches, lighting. The lighting I'm really excited about the lighting because you don't realize how dark that area is until you go up there at night and realize that there's no lighting in that area. So we'll have new lighting around the town square. Electrical will also be installed, so we'll be able to facilitate the holiday tree. We'll be able to conduct different markets if we want to have a small music event or a food truck or different things that will all be available. The site, I did bring kind of a layout of the site. These aren't very exciting renditions of the site because these are more of the engineered plans, but it kind of gives you a little bit of feel. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, the town's. This one's large heritage. They have it in their copy.
So the dark space on that is hardscape. So that'll be the concrete surface. That's an important part of this project because it allows us to maintain ADA accessibility. It also helps to facilitate the underground utilities and the splash feature for the kids. So the small kind of square cutout is the actual splash feature. We're looking at a foot sensor system. So the kids will go and put their foot on the sensor that will activate the fountains. And I think we're looking at a 6-sprayer system. It's pretty small, but it'll be really fun for them. And that was part of the grant was working with kids to get a youth perspective and then integrating a feature into the park that was reflective of what the kids need and wanted. So it does get hot on the town square, and I think it's going to be a really fun and attractive um, feature for that space, which will just keep that space more active as parents come with their kids to let them splash around. Maybe they go get a coffee. Maybe they stop into Theora's shop, maybe they splash. They
So
can.
there's a food truck hookup here somewhere
So there'll be delineated space
all along
for
the
food
street.
trucks around the square. Yeah, yeah. And so
Gonna be fully operational at the end of this phase of construction.
yes. Um, yeah, and then the benches, the landscaping, the trees will all be reinstalled. So yeah, I think it's going to be really nice. North Fork Lumber is donating the lumber for the trellis structure, so that's great. Um, so yeah, so the project I anticipate should be done by July. It's not a big project. They're going fairly fast.
Exciting.
We'll be taking to Arts and Heritage tomorrow night, just kind of the finalization of the colors and the pattern for the concrete work. Arts and Heritage had
Oh,
started out working on that, making recommendations. So it'll be nice to be able to take that back to them tomorrow night and get kind of a final recommendation. But other than that, I don't know if you guys have any questions or.
I expect there'll be some kind of ribbon cutting when it's
Oh,
ready.
absolutely. Yeah. 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 I think it's going to be an exciting, nice
Yeah,
addition.
wait till we figure out that there's rainbows when the splash pad
Right.
goes off. That's going to be a whole new day.
Yeah. So if there's no questions on that, I'll move on. The next project is the sports complex development concept. So the city was approached by a nonprofit group that's been looking for some property to develop a indoor and outdoor sports training facility. This is something that's been identified throughout the sporting community as a huge need. With the amount of rain that we get and just, having a real lack of indoor training facilities for kids, whether that's batting cages or areas to play futsal or just other types of indoor training, sports training facilities. Everyone in the community of youth athletics has been trying to attract investment to an indoor or multiple indoor training facilities. So this group has been working for a number of years to develop a indoor outdoor sports complex that would include the indoor facility includes a basically like a full size baseball diamond. It would be turf, a futsal court, a couple pickleball courts, a tennis court, batting cages, a weight training area, and like a small juice bar gathering space. And then the outdoor facility would include additional tennis courts, pickleball courts, batting cages, and areas for probably like pitching areas and different things for baseball and softball. So they had approached the city about possibly looking at any property that the city had, especially the power plant site. And it just so happened there had been some conversations with um, the owner of the adjoining parcel about their kind of future and transitioning their current space into a different type of development. And so we were able to introduce this investment group to the property owner and see if there was, any interest. And there seems to be some good interest in opportunity to redevelop the existing property. This would be the B&B portable toilets property into an indoor outdoor sports complex. It's interesting that the design that they had currently for another project in a different area was almost the exact same size as the property on the
One that we're
Powers
looking
Creek
at in
District.
McKinleyville?
hmm
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So those conversations are taking place. I think it could be an amazing addition to the community. I think, having more places for kids and families to recreate and, is such a bonus for the community as well as our greater, um, county community. It would bring a lot of opportunities also for the city as we continue to build recreation opportunities here. So that's a project that we're just kind of actively supporting and encouraging. It's something that we actually wrote into the opportunity zone. It was something that we early on had identified as an opportunity that we thought would be really palatable for the city. So that's actually written in to facilitate, almost principally permit sports kind of recreation spaces like this. So
And they've got their pre-development costs are well underway.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yes, it would be a very easy project if it were to
That's a
move
great
forward.
idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of excitement on a lot of levels for this project. So,
I'm just wondering what sort of ancillary businesses would benefit from that. I mean, like what kinds?
well, I know as a baseball mom, my son plays baseball all year long, and so I take him on Sundays to whichever field he's practicing at, and I sit there whether that's at CR or Bear River or Winship School or whatever field we can get on.
Mhm.
And as a captive audience who can't, the drive back to Blue Lake and back to practice doesn't make sense, a place to grab a bite to eat, a coffee shop, a place to walk, a walking trail, little retail. Like it really fits in well with Blue Lake. If I were to bring my son out here, I could drop him off at his practice and I could even bring my bike with me. I can go
Or
ride.
maybe you could rent a bike somewhere
I
in
could
Blue
rent a
Lake
bike.
for
Yes.
slightly more
Yeah.
than a quarter,
Yeah.
20, only on one day of the year during Annie and Mary Day.
And I think it brings a lot of opportunity. These training facilities also support training camps. And training camps attract people not just from your local area, but from outside your area. So if my son goes to a camp in, down south, or we go up to Oregon for a training camp, I'm kind of stuck there,
Oh, this creates
so
another whole set of summer recreation scheduled
mhm.
activities that would bring people
Oh,
in and out of
absolutely.
town
Yeah.
and year
Yeah.
round.
If you had an
As
RV park and campground, they could just stay right there as
And
well.
there's the bike park.
And
It's
tournaments
great.
and yeah.
Especially with people coming over from Reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, it's great.
Would that complex have pools, baseball diamonds?
No,
Field?
no, it's not big enough to support that. No, this would be more of an indoor training facility that would facilitate kids working on fielding, batting, pitching, different. I don't know much about pickleball and tennis, but the same thing I would assume with, just skills development. But we do have baseball
So
fields here,
training clinics
more training
and
clinics,
coaching
and then
sessions and
I believe part of their plan is also to have regular, like a gym membership, so you could go there and work out and yeah, so
Summer camps, camp for
camps.
kids.
It's
Mhm.
really endless, and like I said, it's such a huge need. We work out at CR's indoor facility, and it's cold, it's old, it's the floor shot. Kids are taking balls to the face, but we're there, as much as we can. So it's just a desperate need, and I think Blue Lake, like I said, would just be such a great place for that to take place, and it'd be great for our local youth as well.
Well, and especially with our history here in Blue Lake,
Absolutely, we've
we
always
have
yep.
so many accomplished athletes that have
Mhm.
come out of this town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for youth around here to compete. When you start going, you have a section game and you're playing teams from down south, those kids are working out year round. They've got indoor training facilities, they've got indoor camps, they're pitching year round. They've
they're
got all that.
years ahead of.
And our kids just don't because the facilities don't exist. So
Okay. At this point, are there any public comments on point A and B, or should we wait till we get to the end of item 6 to do comments on this section? Wait till the end and then you can, okay. So that's an exciting complex. The timing would be to be determined, I guess, but they're just kicking it around and
yeah, I
they
mean
do want to do this and they wanted to do this
they're pretty
already. So
advanced in their planning. I think at this point, it's going to come down to some type of, investment type partnership or strategy. And so I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that there's a lot of positive back and forth taking place. So, yeah.
okay. Um,
So the
I-
next project is the Container Village development concept, and I wanted to just give you guys an update. So this is the project that Tasha and Kenneth Eisner are looking at and considering for the city corporation yard. So at the last city council meeting, the council authorized the mayor to enter into a exclusive negotiating agreement with the Eisners for development of the city corporation yard. And this is something we've been working on for a little while, but finally just were able to make all the pieces come together for that ENA. So basically, the ENA allows the parties to facilitate conversation, do site investment, investigation, and to get a little bit more in depth into the project development aspect without the property being on the market. So basically, it doesn't allow the city to basically sell this property out from underneath the Eisners as they're investing in development scenarios.
what's the duration of that period?
I believe it's 6 months. Yeah, and they were fine with that. They're very interested in moving a project forward. So one of their concept ideas is this. We call it the container village, and that's probably not the best um, thing to call it, but it's kind of all we have right now. And basically, what they're looking at is utilizing shipping containers to use to facilitate and develop businesses, possibly some, light manufacturing, food businesses. But basically, and I'm sure you guys have seen these before because I think we've talked about shipping container opportunities in the past. But you can take a shipping container and you can put windows in it. You can put roll up doors. You can stack them. You can connect them. You can wrap them in vinyl so that they have, wonderful designs. You can paint them differently. It's a great way to develop quickly. They meet code. They're pretty energy efficient, and they're a great way for businesses to get started a little more quickly. So Tasha and Kenny own Humboldt Sanitation, and they also are owners of, I believe, B&B and Six Rivers Fencing with Tavis. Tavis, Kane, and Tasha are brother and sister. And they have started to sell and modify shipping containers. So that's why they kind of have this interest in taking that to the next level. So
Okay, so
currently they're modifying them for office space and different things. And they'd like to now take that to the next level and look at developing a whole little business area.
how many units do they think they could get on there?
I don't know. It just depends. You can stack them. You can do all kinds of
Not more
things,
than two high.
Oh,
Maybe
they do
three.
some pretty cool things.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they're pretty. Just Google it because I know you're probably going, oh my
The
God.
innovative stuff.
Yeah,
No, you're
they
right. They stack.
they a lot of them do. You can cantilever them. A lot of places will do rooftop patios on them. Really, really interesting. And early on, we had talked about this opportunity with another developer who was interested in doing some stuff in Blue Lake because it's kind of that kind of nice transition from like that old industrial stuff we've got going on into like making it a little bit more modern. And so it's kind of provides you a little bit of a transition point as you kind of move into the district. And it can be really fun. They have a
Do housing in
oh,
there too?
absolutely,
And
absolutely, yeah. In fact, some of the coolest tiny homes out there are shipping containers. So, yeah, so they're really enthusiastic. Tavis especially is really excited about kind of going in a different direction rather than just, the portable toilet situation and doing some new development. So that's where that's at, and that's currently moving forward.
okay, so in 6 months or so, they'll have some more.
Yeah, so like I said, this gives them time to get into the project, look at the feasibility of it, do some site investigations, um, and then come back and present to the council a proposal. So,
Thank you.
yeah, so the bike park development project that we're just getting ready. Well, we were just getting ready to take all the tarps off, and then we got that crazy amount of rain a couple weeks ago. But I think we're kind of in the clear. So we're going to be pulling the tarps off the dirt piles and the jump features that we have in place. We have a meeting with our bike partner next week to start talking about kicking off our fundraising and our volunteer work days. So that project is still moving forward. We do need some additional materials, and so we're going to be out soliciting for investment in that project. But that's a project. The kids are super excited about it, and I think that's going to be another real anchor development for the community. We did expand the footprint of it a bit just to be able to better facilitate a a more well thought out design jump line and future installation of a pump track and some integration with the trail system. So that I think that project's going to really just take on a life of its own eventually, and it'll be something that really draws people out here. People travel to bike parks. It's a real feature. In fact, I have friends who travel over to Weaverville and different places just to take their kids to their bike parks. So it's another thing where you can take your kid, let them ride their bikes, and the mom, dad, whatever is looking for, a bite to eat, a coffee, an ice cream, type thing. So it does build that kind of, feeds into that reciprocal economy that we're looking for.
Sandy, what materials do we need still? Is that something for public outreach? I'm just curious, or
Yeah, we're going to be doing some outreach here pretty soon. We have Tavis and his friend Dana have been really spearheading that, and so they're going to be giving us some material list. It's kind of a specific mix. We do have to have quite a bit of clay in the mix, so we have to really be careful about the materials that we bring on because
public down?
yeah, absolutely. We're going to be starting kind of that fundraising side of it. We've got a lot of construction taking place in Blue Lake too. A lot of contractors are getting some pretty big jobs. And so we're going to be soliciting from those contractors as well. And then Pepe's got a pretty good stockpile of clay material that we've actually been using, and he's been donating to us as well, along with donating the use of a lot of his equipment. And he's been a real big factor in this project so far. So
We should get them together, a big thank you from the cities and
absolutely. The next project is the Bottlewatt Community Project. This project is also moving forward. We have Garrett McSorley is the architect on that project, so it's transitioned from Cash over to Garrett. Garrett's a really well-known local architect. He's done a lot of projects. In fact, he did some of the projects that we actually wrote the opportunity zone based on, kind of the type of development that we were hoping to attract. He's a local and really is excited about the project. And so that's going to be going to the Planning Commission here soon. I believe they're finishing up their CEQA work and just kind of, I think, the final site layout. And so that will be going probably in the next month or two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. Garrett's, he's come out and done, walked the site with everyone, and
How many units in there?
I believe
Commercial,
it's
retail?
47,
47
and then, but don't hold me to that.
ish.
It's somewhere in,
47.
it kind of fluctuates between,
How it gets configured.
yeah, 43, depending on, how many units they can get in, and what size. And then it also includes the separate kind of live work units as well that, had been promoted for possibly artisan space or just a space for people to live and work in the community.
Is that 47 units? Does that include the live work unit?
No. So the northern side of Taylor Way Master Plan and Parcel Subdivision. So I wanted to give everyone an update on this. This was the work that we have been doing with Storyland. So Storyland was originally hired to look at the feasibility of recreation economy in Blue Lake with a specific focus on the development of an RV park and campground. And you guys were all part of that work that we did. That was a pretty involved process, a lot of community scoping and working with industry partners and leaders to kind of look at needs and development potential. Um, as we moved through that project, we had some remaining funds. And so we asked for a project amendment to include master planning for the northern side of Taylor Way as well. And then additionally, the funds would also be used to facilitate a parcel subdivision because we have some fairly large parcels out there right now. And in order to facilitate development, we really need to subdivide those parcels. But our problem was we really didn't know the best way to subdivide those parcels without looking at what kind of the development potential was of those parcels. And in looking at development potential, you also have to look at parking, ingress, egress, emergency services, trail access, connectivity, live kind of work circulation.
Yeah.
So we asked Storyland if they would be willing to take that on as part of their existing contract. EDA was supportive of that and gave us that authorization. They took the project on. And so we kind of started out with this kind of revised idea of expanding on the work that they did with RV Park and Campground. And so an overview. So we have a draft that we've been working through. And where did it go?
You didn't put HP line.
I didn't? Okay, my brain is. All right. So this isn't like the best setup here, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through. We started out with kind of this, originally the spatial storytelling is what they call it. And so, like I said, this is kind of an expansion of what the work that we all participated in with the RV Park and Campground. Part of what we wanted Storyland to do was to help us kind of define our story, because it's very hard to go down to the Powers Creek District as is and really visualize what it could be. And we also didn't really know what it could be or what kind of the looks or the types of development that could take place. And so Storyland, this is what they do. You know, this is their whole business model. So we went through all of these efforts and came up with this. They created the Powers Creek District as a character, and pulled in these different aspects of what the physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual character of the district would be. And the core concepts that came out was that it had to be natural, memorable, sustainable, inclusive, and connected. So that's kind of where they went with their thought process. And this is a setting. So the big idea, they kind of expanded on this. The big idea for the Powers Creek District is that it's a natural setting along the Mad River. We're now transitioning that back to the Ottawa River that once played host to timber mills, now welcomes its residents and visitors alike to experience a sustainable environment where they can replenish, recharge, and refuel. This inclusive community seeks to connect with all that Mother Nature has to offer, a place where life is sustained. So, as looking at the northern side of the district, this is a little bit more intensive on the trail is on that side. That's a big feature. The bike park, and looking at creating additional opportunities and spaces for people to recreate and connect with nature, but also integrating it into the development of the park, because we all know that the Powers Creek District is the city's best opportunity for future development, and really holds the economic future and foundation for Blue Lake. So when we look at trails, there's opportunities to look at trails and to modify those trail systems to maybe provide an opportunity to lead into the bike park. So it can be a skate feature that leads into the bike park that goes off the trail. Having shade and covered spaces where people can enjoy the outdoors, but spend more time in the Powers Creek District. So trying to keep things in a more natural state, but also provide opportunities for economy. A lot of uh, the ideas that came out of the storyboards and things that we all worked on was kind of the use of the elements that already kind of are reflected in the Powers Creek district. So the metals, the timbers, large windows, glass, so that it's not such a barrier between development and the outdoors, but really inviting those indoor outdoor spaces to connect and integrate. So these were some of the imagery that is kind of reflective of some of that thought process. They also wanted to look at the connectivity to the river, and these are big ideas, but I think it's important that we don't limit ourselves. And when we start to think about connectivity to the river and the trails and all those systems, there's a lot of opportunity to increase capacity and to improve space. One of the things I really liked was down here at the bottom, right here on the river. These are little platforms that kind of jut out over an existing levee structure on another water system. And I hadn't ever really thought about that as an opportunity, but thinking about ways to, we can't build into the levee, like the Army Corps would never let you do that, but it could be possible to think about integrating some little platform overlook areas so that people could enjoy that space a little bit more too. When you go down there, it's a beautiful space. And, like Roxanne was saying, birding, fishing, all of these things are part of that system. And so thinking about ways where people can maybe make a little bit longer term connection, I think is something that we shouldn't not think about because we have some current barriers because we don't know how things will transition in the future. Some of the different walkway structures and things, who would have thought ever that the zoo would have a skywalk? That was a really big idea a number of years ago, and it seemed like crazy.
A very successful idea
But
too.
it absolutely is, and it's it's something that those are big ideas that it might take years to do, but I think we should think about them. They also started kind of looking at, signage and wayfinding, just to kind of get people thinking about, what a visitor would be looking for as they look at finding space. This is just what it would look like at night. And these aren't by any means what things will look like, but these are some concepts that their architects and designers came up with to start kind of facilitating some dialogue. So these are some other additional signage opportunities. So this is kind of how the parcel lines started to lay out. If you look up to the north, there's kind of this weird big triangle. That's the city's property. That's the old dump. That was a, kind of a household trash dump for years. It is, it has been, it hasn't been remediated necessarily, but it has been being monitored. It's pretty low level issues associated with that. It's not something I think that we would ever want to really develop. The access from that is along Ivy Lane, and that's very restricted. It's it's probably 12 feet wide. Really can't accommodate a lot of traffic coming down there. But what it could accommodate is a pedestrian bridge from the trail. So by the bike park, a pedestrian bridge could go across that, and that could be a really wonderful, usable green space that would provide a lot of opportunity for people to integrate and gather and spend more time. So as we're also working on the Powers Creek Restoration Project, where we've designed in that connectivity point. So the design of the creek takes into consideration a future installation of a pedestrian bridge. And you can kind of see we're starting to kind of break up the parcels a bit so that they start to become a little bit more manageable. So this is kind of a recommended parcel configuration for the northern side that we'll be taking to council. So this is currently being surveyed, but this starts to give us the ability to make some better decisions and planning based upon this model. This is a concept, a kind of a master plan of looking at a potential build out of the Powers Creek district. And it takes into consideration projects that are currently being either designed or projects that are being looked at, thought about in the pre-planning stages, conceptual. So the southern side, this is the RV parking campground project. This property, this was kind of pulled out originally because we didn't have the idea for the RV park or the sports complex, but this is where that would be. This is the city corporation yard, so they kind of filled in some space for the container village. This is Ryan and Alicia Russo's property, and they have a 3-phase development. They're currently working on permitting the second phase to move forward, and then the third phase would come about in the future. These units here, this is a project that the owners of Paradise Cay that own this property here are interested in developing. They're really interested in continuing to invest in the city of Blue Lake and the Powers Creek district, and they have a kind of a concept for these. It's right now they're looking at each unit would have 2 apartments and then a downstairs that could be retail, commercial, light manufacturing, office space. It kind of is that kind of live work opportunity. And they're looking at the potential of developing 4 and then moving on to a second development of an additional 4. This is the Bottawat project. So you can kind of see how this is being laid out. The neat thing about this is that they've really integrated and connected all the spaces. So looking at trails, looking at connectivity through parking, looking at connectivity to the trail system and connectivity across to the southern side. So as we do this, we also start to look at connecting systems through crosswalks, landscaping, traffic calming, just all those features that, in a holistic approach to a larger scale development, you want to make sure that you're factoring in. So those are all being worked into this plan. This is just kind of pulling out some ideas, looking at some of the carrying capacity. They've just kind of labeled projects. So this is the northern side, just kind of a drilled in look. You can see the bike park here, the Bottawat project here, some shared parking, the integration to the trail, the integration to the green space over here, the connectivity. Right now this is just kind of this weird cul-de-sac, kind of an endpoint that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we asked if they could kind of look at it as more of a plaza. One of the things that we really wanted to focus on was the gateway into the Powers Creek district from the arena side. And so this is actually been set aside as more of a park entrance. So this is and I'll show you on the next slide. But we wanted people to feel like when they came across the bridge that they weren't walking into a real intense high density development. They were walking into more of a park setting that then led into integrated development space. So this space is kind of a covered space. And I think they have like a fire pit or something in there in their drawings. But it would be a really nice connecting space for these properties over here, especially if any of these had maybe like, a little juice bar or an ice cream shop where you could, get your food and then you could go sit out. You could sit out under a covered structure, or there could be seating out here, gathering space. They've also identified this space as an opportunity for food trucks. So you'll see that in a bit here. But you can see that there's a connecting road that goes through. So we're now starting to connect all of these spaces together, where now, things are pretty distinct, trying to get that ability for people to meander, to shop, to walk, to connect to space. So it's starting to kind of lay out more as a walkable community versus just kind of an industrial development. This is the south side. We've seen this before. This is the concept for the RV parking campground. One of the things, though, that we are looking at is, if this property were to be developed as a sports complex, what's the best way to connect it to this piece? So there's a lot of shifting and ideas that would probably change a little bit in here to think about. People could, pull in here, walk in, maybe there's some shared parking, but making those more connected, especially for people who are maybe staying longer or at the training facility or their kids are there or different things. This is just an outline of what had originally been looked at for the RV Park and Campground. So this starts to kind of lay out in a more visual way, kind of what these developments could look like. The ones in the white are existing buildings, and the ones that are colored are future development opportunities. So one of the things I thought was interesting is, when they looked at these existing sites, like this is Jacques Chocolate, this is Jewel Distillery, Fish Brothers, Tomaso's. They started to, and they have there's some open property back here. So one of the things that they talked about was not limiting our vision to what was existing, because there is opportunity to develop this a little bit differently. So in this plan, they have put in a building up here that's actually in front of these buildings, because these buildings are a little bit more industrial manufacturing. But if you connected this space, maybe this becomes, kind of like the Dick Taylor's chocolate. So you have a chocolate shop, and maybe the front of it becomes more of a retail commercial, or maybe it's a little restaurant.
So he's a tenant in that space now?
So we sort
Or is
of.
that prospect maybe?
Yeah,
Maybe.
we will have another tenant.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Jewel Distillery, maybe popping out a front section that could maybe integrate a larger tasting room for them. Maybe it's a little restaurant that has their tasting room within it. And so they're still manufacturing behind the building, but that front facing part of it becomes more of your retail commercial side. And then you can kind of see they started plopping in, kind of concepts for like this container village and what that could look like. And you see that there's opportunities for people to mix and mingle and integrate. And then this site, we've been working with the Russos to connect these two sites together for shared parking and ingress egress. So right now it's very difficult for any type of delivery truck or anything to come down here. There's no real good turnaround point. So one of the concerns we have had is, how do we facilitate that? And we wanted to make sure when we looked at the parcel configuration that we had some reciprocal easements or some shared development space, parking space, so that a truck can come in and make a delivery and come in and go all the way out and not have to come. Right now they come in, they pull out in the road, and it's just really a major cluster. So I really like the thought that they put into connecting all these spaces together so that they start to increase their usage capacity, and it starts to become a little bit more well thought out. This also provides connectivity over here to the brewery side. And that's always been kind of a weird configuration here, where these parcels were just kind of like they're just on this weird fence line, but not really thinking about, how deliveries take place or circulation. So this starts to help put that more into play. This is just a rendering of what a shipping container village could look like. It looks a little bit like Legos, but it's pretty fun. And you can kind of see like the different layouts for parking. So starting to break up these road systems so that we don't just have these big long linear roads, that we start to use those roads to incorporate parking, which also helps to slow down traffic. And the last thing we want is a big, huge parking lot to facilitate this. So having these little break points is really nice, and it kind of gives an opportunity to multitask these spaces and encourage, different types of uses. So biking, horses, walking, all starts to be factored in. You can kind of see how they made this more of a little plaza, a couple of food trucks. And this is kind of that gateway entrance. Here's the horse arena. You come across the Ped Bridge into kind of this gateway that kind of welcomes you into the district. And then you kind of start to move on into the higher density development. This is so this would be right here is Jewel Distillery, Mondo Way. This is just a concept for these units that are being looked at right now for potential development. And like I said, this isn't what things necessarily will end up looking like, but this was an attempt at kind of an architectural rendering to start to get a feel for what this development could look like.
What's the height limit there? Is 3 stories?
It is, and it's interesting, and I really like what they did with this because the height, it can go up. The further back you are from the trail and the creek, the higher up you can go.
Mhm.
And that was purposely written into the zone so that we didn't have these large buildings towering over the trail and creating dark spaces. So when you look at kind of what they did here, they everything they've done, they've also done with the thought of what our zoning allows. So this bench is back. So you can see this has a lower level deck, and then it goes up a little bit higher. And they have a deck here, and then it gets higher as it goes further back. So the concept for this is that there's 2 apartments and then the downstairs space. Like I said, the zone allows for retail, commercial, light manufacturing, office space. It's real flexible. It's written to let kind of economy dictate versus overthinking it. But having 2 apartments that you can rent and have income coming in makes that foray into retail, commercial, and stuff a lot more palatable. So, so I really like this idea that they've come up with, and but like I said, this is just kind of a concept. This is kind of looking from the garbage dump site that could be transitioned into a really lovely green space. I've talked with some of the residents over here, and they're really excited about the thought of this, becoming more of a park setting and being connected to the creek and buffering it from other development and not thinking about bringing stuff down Ivy Lane. That was also really important. But you can kind of see how this starts to lay out. This would be the Bottle-Up project. Over here is RV park and campground, the motel, the live work units are up here. But there's still a ton of a great trail space. All of these developments, have setback requirements. So, there's lots of greenery. And then you come down and you're in a giant bike park that's also going to be a really exceptional park space. So it's that's it. So that's what we are working on right now. Like I said, these are just some concepts, but they are based upon some of the thoughts and interests that we've been having, and are kind of helping us move in a specific direction. So I wanted to have you guys look at that, and
It's pretty wild how it's all come together.
it's pretty amazing.
And then I noticed we don't have the motel concept anymore.
It's in there, yeah.
Oh,
It's
it
still there,
is.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
was
I
part of
I
our
kind of
development.
glossed over. I have the RV park and campground slides as well. I didn't just for the sake of time, but I can definitely show that to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and just
Okay,
as
good.
part of that too, the city, I don't know if I let you guys know, the city now has sorry, just sticking our toes. The city does now have site control of the power plant site. So we're actively working on options for cleanup of that site and removal of buildings and
The
things.
broom
So,
is getting going over there too. The Scotch broom.
oh
I
yeah,
don't know how
everything
many
is
on
getting
the
going over there. So,
yeah.
but so
There-
that is now under the control of the city. So, so that's good. I think it was time to get that. It's kind of that end of that era, and we can move on to some new ideas and a new future over there. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions about that or concerns or ideas or.
Um, yeah. I feel the loss of the green space and its progress, but and seeing the former dump site opened up with a footpath and
Mhm.
kind of fills a little bit of the gap. And
Yeah. And keep in mind, it was never green space. It was always an industrial park.
yeah,
I always have to remind myself,
yeah.
we have a lot of
It's a
park
brownfield.
space.
It's a brownfield. Mhm. Um, we do we want to cover the Powers
Oh,
Creek
sorry.
Restoration Project?
Yeah.
And then we'll do comments on that item
Yeah.
6.
So Powers Creek Restoration, that project is moving forward, in light of the recent last few years, flooding issues. There, the the project team has been meeting with our funding agency to talk about modifying the grant right now to be able to better plan for the impacts that we've been seeing on the ground. So there's some modifications taking place to that project scope. The funding agency is uh, pretty excited about it kind of expanding the footprint of that project as well, and being it the grant is specifically for flood mitigation and restoration, I believe, habitat restoration and flood mitigation. So really keying in on the flood mitigation is a real important aspect of this. So there's some kind of retooling of the project deliverables that they're working on right now, and that's being sent off to the funding agency. It opens it up for some additional planning, design, engineering, and some on the ground work, and then queues it up for the next round of funding for a larger um, restoration construction project. So we're going to get a lot better project out of it. And, it doesn't make sense when you're looking at a restoration project when you have these impacts right in front of you to not integrate them and like
Yeah,
kind of
no,
check yourself.
that was a wild
Be like,
day.
okay,
It's a very wild day.
there's some stuff happening here that we need to integrate. And before, we just didn't have enough resources to go as far with the project. But now the funding agency, after seeing everything, is like, yeah, let's expand this footprint. And
Very fortuitous that you had the
yeah,
Hudson.
yeah, it actually worked really well to our advantage. We have lots of good
So
pictures.
this pushes the timeline back a little bit.
For implementation of the actual construction activity, yes, but we are planning. I think the plan right now is to. They have a pretty good design right now that's integrated all of these aspects, so that's being reviewed by the funding agency, and then I think the goal right now is to get in and do vegetation removal
Mhm.
and invasive species removal first. And that also gives us a better opportunity to really get into the creek. It's super vegetated and it's very hard. We've done LiDAR mapping. We've shot a ton of topos, and we just, without getting all that vegetation out, you can't
Can't
really.
see it.
You
But
can't
that's going
really
to
get
be
in and set the
ongoing. I
grade.
mean, with the
Absolutely.
blackberries, 1
Yeah.
year seeds is
Yeah.
what,
And
7
so that's
years
part of
weeds.
the,
That's when
you
you
know,
need herbicides, Jake.
yeah, so there's a whole replanting vegetation plan and a maintenance plan that goes with it. So yeah, so that's moving forward. It's just moving forward in a little bit different direction, but the creek is getting a lot of support and a lot of attention, so that's great.
It's really beautiful over there.
Yeah, it really is.
At this time, does the public have any comments on item 6?
Kent.
Well, I noticed that the document regarding the town square still shows a Portland Loo there. My understanding is we're getting a B&B down there with some painting on it or something instead.
Maybe some decorative fencing around it.
Didn't make any sense. They weren't actually sending material down into the sewer system, which is actually there to meet that paying someone to maintain, but that's a different topic. Sport complex. You're seeing everybody wanting to minimize their carbon imprint. I'm sorry, I'll get rid of this really quick. I'm in a meeting. Don't call me back, please. Okay. So anyway, the problem being is that anybody who's a further out distance from things is at a disadvantage as far as from location for people. Everybody wants to have walkable, bikeable, things of that nature. Your sport complex has so many places, even in McKinleyville area, where all these ancillary uses that Mandy was.
They need you.
Wait outside. That all those ancillary uses are already provided in these locations, such as you'd have where the United Rental is down in McKinleyville there. That whole shopping center is pretty well vacant as far as that goes. And I'm sure a location like that would be far, far better than something of that nature. So The sport complex I can't see happening here, but you never know. Container Village is an interesting concept. Um, the problem you're going to find on all of these projects we have here is that the construction costs and inflation are going through the roof. You're seeing all kinds of major projects that are already started or on the drawing board being canceled. People are no longer finding things economically viable. And the county of Humboldt within 2 years will not have any positive general fund balances left, reserves. The state is in the same shape, so things are spiraling rather rapidly. And when that happens, the money dries up as far as grant lands and things of that nature. I've been told there's very little funding available for any kind of a DANCO project or anything of those natures. That money's going away rather rapidly. The same as student loans and everything are all being pulled back. And a good chance you're going to see the Humboldt State end up being repurposed within the next 2 or 3 years because of its carbon imprint. That's terrible. So anyway, those are all things that look toward. Wonderful pipe dreams. Can't see them happening. We don't too much more effort into those particular projects. I recommend you did get your the power plate down there. You have holes in your fence where homeless people can go in and out of there. Hope that will be secured in rather near future, rather than having people going and camping in that particular area. My understanding is there have already been people in there who've done things like break out windows and throw files around and things of that nature. So these sites need to be secured. It's a public safety issue, not necessarily economic. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Are there any more comments on item 6 from the public or the commission? Okay, I think we do not have a chamber representative, or
We have
you,
Justin
Justin,
here.
do you want to give a chamber report?
All right, let me get my notes here. Um, Fortunately, Mandy kind of ruined a couple of them
Oh,
because
sorry, Justin.
she talked about some of the stuff. But we're talking about the roundabout sign. That's something we've been working on. Um, we be getting with Mandy here in a little bit and start spitballing some ideas and figure out what we can. Annie Mary Day. Um, I believe they said they already had 15 vendors already signed up. Um, there's
17.
07. Okay, so we have a few more now. We're talking about shirts, and possibly other things that we could make that for sale. And then we have to get a new treasurer because our treasurer stepped down. Oh, the master of ceremony, I forgot to mention. We're gonna reach out to a retiring member of the chamber, and hopefully he'll be our master of ceremonies. Um, the grand marshal, yes, yeah. Um, that's pretty much it.
Hillary doing
Okay, well, I am reading directly from the agenda, so I am reading the exact words that I was given. Um, Other than that, um, lots of conversation about different reaching out to businesses, working with the RCMBA, the hiking people, trying to get our stuff out, which Mandy also mentioned. So I think that's pretty much about the extent of that.
Can I request that when you are doing your publicity for Annie and Mary Day, that you include the Blue Lake Museum and the fact that we're having a pie, homemade slices of pie.
That will be included.
Thank you.
That was being discussed. I didn't mention it, but yes, it was discussed. We will be reaching out to several businesses, and as well, the museum will also be mentioned.
It was amazing when we couldn't do the pies. We had to have all the pre-captured.
Oh, right.
I thought, and then, we tried all these different things, and it was like, nope, nope, nope. So, um, we're doing it again this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Justin. And that brings us up to item 8. Mandy, is there more?
Nope, that's about all I have. Um, for Parks and Recreation, we're really focusing right now on summer camp. Um, we are focusing on the bike park kickoff, and then Annie and Mary Day is a big part of Parks and Recreation program. Our skating program is doing really well. We are starting to kind of see a decline in numbers. This is kind of what happens this time of year. So we're looking at doing promotions and looking at large party packages, just to kind of take place of that revenue loss. But our skating program has done really well this year. And the parks look beautiful. I can't say enough about our team. They're just everything looks really amazing. We've had so many kids playing ball and families, and it's just been great. It's always great. This time of year is my favorite because I can look out on my deck and watch all the kids playing ball and just having so much fun, and the cheering and just the use of the spaces and stuff. So it's a great time of year. And we'll be moving into our really busy season, and we're looking forward to that. We've got Bike Month going on right now, and we have a really great promotion. On June 14th, we'll be doing a drawing for $1,000. Basically, it's like $1,000 gift certificate to put towards the purchase of a bike, and that is partially donated by Revolution Bike, and Up North have generously donated towards that. So what we did with that promotion is kind of another linkage to businesses where we people can ride their bikes to various businesses in town, ride to City Hall, ride to Parks and Recreation, go to the Doghouse, Keiko's, the Grange, wherever, and each day you can get another entry ticket from each one of those businesses. So the more you ride and the more you frequent, our local businesses, the more opportunities you have to win that bike. So it's just another way that we're trying to link business to recreation, and just make sure that what we're bringing in is also helping to support economy in town. So that's great. So we've those promos. We have a bike rodeo coming up at the end of the month as well. So lots of good things happening. Yeah, we had a really good May Day party. Super fun. Lots of people came out. We heard nothing but positive things. The one thing I do want to mention about the May Day block party is it was put on by Gloria Baker and Yahira who works at the Logger, and it's been a really great partnership because we're starting to see some of those events that we kind of started to incubate, starting to get taken over by other people, seeing the value of it. And so that's been great. So they have actually offered to also do our Sunday markets coming up in the fall,
Wow.
which we're super excited about because, we're very limited in our capacity. And it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to do those things. And so now to have people recognize the value of it and want to take that on is great. So we're just building more partnerships, more investment in the community. So we're really excited to see that happen. So yeah, that's about, I think, all I got.
That's cool. That's so they're taking on the markets.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to do those towards the end of summer. So that's where, we really
More
had a lot of,
August.
yeah,
That's
last year was
that's
tough.
smart.
We had a really tough growing season. It really was impacted by the winter. So when we started our markets, there was hardly even anything to sell. So we think that being kind of a fall market is a great space for Blue Lake.
Great. Thank you. Does the public have any comments on the Parks and Rec event update? Ken?
We had Parks and Rec doing good. I did before, I talked to quite a few of the last farmer market group of people, during their last couple of weeks here. And of course, they were very disappointed. Again, the thought that really works for this thing is if you can schedule them, maybe not quite as frequently, but have them when you also have big events out here, that's when you're going to get your draws out here. So, if they're having something at the logger that's a big thing, then you have your farmers market. But if you're not bringing people here for other reasons, people are going to, this will be their last year. I mean, they've had 2 years where they've been quite disappointed, and we'd hate to have 3 strikes and be out permanently on this thing. Put extra effort into it and make it work this time, because I think it's a last.
Town square will be in place, and
Yeah,
maybe something.
you never know.
We don't know, but yeah,
Give it a try.
third time for the game. Okay, are there any announcements? Is there a plant sale coming up, Cindy?
Oh, yes, we do have a plant sale coming.
June 8th is the Juanita plant sale from 10 to 1 o'clock in the museum parking lot. I don't think we've got a museum opening date yet, Brenda.
No, we've been we have a lot of work to get it done with new displays.
Yeah. So, and then tentatively, this is way far ahead, but tentatively August 17th will be the citywide yard sale.
Ooh.
Asking about that.
August 17th is what you said?
Yeah. Okay. Saturday, August 17th.
They ought to have the farmers market on that same weekend. Combine those two things.
Okay. I don't know. We always have something going on. I think one year there was a Buddy Blues going on at the same
Oh,
time.
right,
So,
last year.
Mm-hmm.
it's a problem. Right now, we're looking at that date. People are asking about it.
So we're doing the plant sale on June
8th,
June 8th. Okay.
Saturday, 10 to 1. Plenty of plants.
All right. Are there any other announcements? Okay, I think there was maybe possibly a future agenda item for business outreach or polling for options on this plan to be considered at another time. Anything else, maybe?
No, I did want to mention that I am going to reach out to CalEd to come up and do one of those.
I think that would be really exciting because
I'm
they
going to
can
have
just
her
show
call
all
me.
the stuff that's happened since the last time that came up, and that was
Yeah.
a lot of
And
fun.
they'll be really happy because the logger's open.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great idea, Cindy. There's nothing else on the agenda. I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second, Cindy.
Oh, it's me.
Cindy, and
too.
all in favor, we're adjourned.
And so the time